Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi friends, welcome to another recommendations video, and first off, I will answer the elephant in the room. Yes, I did just touch up my hair finally. Yes, it does always turn this purplish red color. Yes, it is a purplish red. It is called like deep violet is the color. With my blonde, it sometimes looks red. It looks maroon when I wear it, but this is the color it normally is. It's just, it fades out, you know, with washings. But anyway, I touched it up. Yes, we were nice and bright. There's even still a need to wash it again, but I like it to stay as bright as possible for as long as possible. So here we go. But anyway, enough of that. I always get comments when I do it like, oh, it's new. And it's like, I mean, yes, I touched it up, but this is the same color that I've been doing it for 2 or 3 years at this point. And yeah, it's fresh. I love it. My sister's coming to visit this weekend, so I'm pre-filming a couple of videos today to get me through the weekend while she's here. But we are doing a recommendation for books with neighbors, where the hero and the heroine are neighbors. This is very funny because as I was also putting this together, you can tell like the types of books I read that have neighbors, because there's definitely a distinct pattern, which we'll see if you get to it as I go through these. But I have quite a few of these. I actually think this is a great form of like a forced proximity when you're forced to be neighbors with someone. And I just think it can be a lot of fun. So we're going to go through these. And the video that actually, or the book that actually inspired me to make this video is one that should be out the day that you're seeing this. If not, it's about to come out, but that is actually All My Love by Daisy Jane. I have talked about this in a few recent videos because it is super spicy. Like, this one is almost erotica, which is funny because it does have like a slow burn getting to the point where the characters are together, but once they are together, it is like a fuck fest all the way through. Maybe I just said fuck too early in the video, but I don't care. But at the same time, I found it to be so sweet, even though it was like an erotic fuck fest. I don't know. Okay, it doesn't make sense, but that's what it is. So in this case, we have Dolly, who is this 20-year-old woman who is neighbors with Hudson, who is a single dad and a cowboy, and he's 18 years older than her, and she is his stalker. Yes, she is his stalker. She's been obsessed with him for years now, and she's basically been biding her time until she's old enough that he won't feel creepy for liking her. Yes, I know, it's a very interesting scenario, but Hudson, he's a very upstanding man. He's a sweet man. Like I said, he's a single dad. His wife left him when he caught her cheating on him with his best friend, so he's very distrustful of women, and he really is looking for a woman who will be obsessed with him. He just doesn't quite know what he means by that until Dolly. So her and her sisters have lived next door to him for a few years, and like I said, she's been obsessed with him this whole time, but she also knows that he's not going to make a move with her until he doesn't feel like a creep for liking a young woman. You know, he doesn't want to feel weird about it. And so she has been stalking him and biding her time, and when the time is right, the woman's gonna make her move. Okay. And like I said, once things get going with these two, it is full steam ahead. There is squirting, fisting, toys being used, there's cock warming, there is so many things that get started. But it is a slow burn until that point, and then it's just no holds barred. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's totally bonkers, it's totally fun, but it is one of the few stalking romances that I've read that, like, it isn't a dark romance. Like, it's erotic in the sex parts of it, but this is really like a sweet small town romance, and then it goes where it's gonna go. So there you are. Next up, we have If You Give a Single Dad a Nanny by Anne Einerson. And straight up, this one is a lovely little neighbor romance. I wish I had the map with me right now. It's with all my other goodies that I have from books. But this one, if you're starting to see what the pattern's going to be, you can maybe tell it already. We have another single dad. And in this one, we have Marlo, who is the next door neighbor. Her and her dog Waffles live next door to Dylan and his daughter Lola, and he is a little bit uptight, a little bit grumpy, a little bit judgy at the beginning. I will say that a lot of people who have read this eventually, they think he's a bit stuck up in the beginning, and he is. He's a little bit judgy. He thinks she's a little bit flighty. His life is very planned, very in control, the way that he and his daughter go through their days. So he sees Marlo and all her chaoticness, and her dog, that it keeps getting into his backyard. He just doesn't have time for that. It is overwhelming to him. However, Marlo is just so kind and so sweet. And when Dylan is actually in need of a nanny, at least part-time, he's encouraged to look to Marlo. But his family thinks she would be good at this. And yeah, it's kind of encouraged towards her. And now he thinks, he's like, this isn't going to go well in any way, shape, or form. But you know what? Again, he's a bit stuck up, and he quickly starts to realize that there are a lot of great traits about Marlo, and he slowly starts to fall for her as he sees her taking care of his daughter, as he sees, you know, just who she is and how she is with his daughter. And it's just so cute. And I love showing off this because Anne sent me this sweet little swag pack. Look at this cute little family together eventually. Let's see if my camera will let you see it. Oh, there is Dylan and Marlo and Lola, and Waffles are so cute. I just love them. So this is a lovely one. And I like the neighbor aspect of this because her studio actually looks into his office. So sometimes he'll be on his business calls because he'll work from home some days and be distracted by this beautiful woman across the way. So that's also part of the reason he gets a little irritated, right? Is she gets him a little hot under the collar and he doesn't know how to handle that. But I'm here for it. I like it. Okay, next up, we have a brand new release, which is Wild Love by Elsie Silver. And yes, you see, another single dad. Man, these were just a theme in this, and we ain't done with them yet. We still have some more. But this one is her new release, which I don't want to say too much about this one, but it does involve our heroine coming back in to town after some things go wrong in her life. And she ends up working with her like childhood frenemy is the best way to say it, because it's her brother's best friend, and they always had kind of this little bit of like back and forth going on. But it's very clear to us, the reader, that this was always in good fun for them, though they would be mean to each other. It really was in that like, I have to pick on you so that I don't fall head over heels in love with you type of thing. And now they're both adults. Also recently, our hero Ford has found out he's a father. I don't want to spoil how that happened, but it is in one of the more unique ways that I've seen someone become a father. I thought it was very cool. You know, I will be honest, like I saw this in a couple of reviews, like it doesn't, the reasoning doesn't completely hold water, okay? Like it is a bit bonkers, but I was just so in love with this couple, the slow burn of these two, the way that Ford helps out Rosie, the way that Rosie like compliments Ford in so many ways, and the way that even once they start to fall for each other, she still loves to keep that teasing happening between them. And he's like, are you mad at me? And she's like, no, but I'm pretending. And he's like, why? And it's like, well, because we like to fight. That's what we do. And he's like, do we fight or do we flirt? And she says, well, I think it's the same thing for us. So like, that's what they are. But she ends up living in, I can't remember if it's like the guest house at like her brother's house or where it is, but I know that they're very close because there's a dock that is like shared by their two properties or whatever. Technically it's on Ford's land, but it's Rosie's dock is what we say. So they are neighbors. They can see each other from where they are, and I love it. I figured I would show the other Elsie Silver right now, which is of course Reckless. This book has been talked about so much. This one is about Theo and Winter. This is a accidental pregnancy / like kind of a secret baby. If you've read it, you know what I mean. I like to call this one an accidental secret baby, right? It has that type of scenario where there's a reason why the hero doesn't know that he's a father until a certain point, and it isn't his fault, and it isn't the heroine's fault either. Like she tries, but because of some things that come in the way, he doesn't know about it, you know? And it's not either of their faults why that happens, you know? But when Theo ends up like moving to town, he ends up in the house next door to Winter. And now the truth is going to come out about them. So this one is, I still have a soft spot for this one, even though it did go a little bit overboard for me in the sex stuff with this one. This is where this series started to go a bit overboard for me. I still loved Theo as a dad and finding out about it. Like, I just loved it. So it still has a soft spot in my heart. All right, keeping it going with the single parents, because that's also what this video ends up being. So I'm sorry for those of you who don't like the single dads or moms, but that is something that I absolutely adore. So it bleeds into a lot of my recommendations, and I just can't help that. I'm maybe not the right channel for you if that's what you don't want, but as you can tell, it fits into a lot of my recs. But here we have Ignite by Melanie Harlow. It's been a while since I've shared off this book. This is the first book in, well, it's not the first book. It's technically the 6th book, but it's the first book in the 2nd generation of the Cloverleaf Farms, because she still considered this a Cloverleaf Farms, but it's the next generation. And this one is about Winnie and Dex. I was going to say Dax, but it's Dex. And so he is a firefighter, and he lives next door with his 2 girls. And one day when Winnie, the fire alarm starts going off in her house, I think she's like in the shower when it happens. And so he literally like busts in and is going to try to see what's going on, and she's in a towel. And so that's like a first interaction that they have. But yeah, so they live next door. He's got 2 girls, and they're adorable. So we love it. We're here for it. Okay, now we have one that is not a single parent, okay? We have Blitzed by Devney Perry. This is a recent release. This is actually a forbidden romance between a student athlete at a college and a football coach. So she is not his student. She's a volleyball player. These two actually meet during the summer holiday at a barbecue that happens at his house. She is going to be living in a house next door to his, obviously. Neighbors is the trope. And they have a one-night stand before the school year, but that night they don't end up talking about what they do. They just have this crazy connection. They end up, you know, like we said, sleeping together, and then neither of them has reached out to the other one before school starts. And so, well, not even school start, like when the athletes get there first to start practice. And then they get introduced to each other, and they discover, oh shit, this is the person that I had some of the best sex of my life with. Oh no, dear God, what am I gonna do? Type of situation, right? And what are you gonna do with that? What are you gonna do with that? So I really enjoyed this one. It was a slow burn, even though, yes, they've already had sex. There's then this like second tier of slow burn as they have to try to resist each other. And I love that kind of tension where you're trying your hardest to resist. It's so good. Okay, back on to the single parent bullshit here. We have 1% of You by Michelle Gross. This is, I loved this one so much. This was a gift from Deshawn too. Thank you so much for sending me this for my birthday, Deshawn, because this is a single mom. She's a very young single mom, and she's actually pregnant at the beginning of this. And our hero, he moves to this town to be closer to his parents. They've asked him to move closer. He is a business owner. He owns tattoo parlors in a couple of towns, and he moves into this home that is like near an apartment building, and every day he sees this mom and her little kid and sees that she's pregnant, and he has some pretty cruel thoughts about her to begin with. I'll be honest, he doesn't think some of the nicest things about her to start. But then he runs into the family at the grocery store and actually steals the last bag of chips from the little girl. And now he is persona non grata, and he feels bad because like the mom chewed him out and is like, really? You took that away from a little girl? Like, what's your problem? And it is a little bit, he goes a little bit over the top with it, okay? We can admit it. But it's good because he starts keeping an eye on them, and he starts feeling a bit of like a connection with them and wanting to look out for them. And so he starts doing these like good deeds for this mom and this little girl. And eventually there's also a little boy that gets added in when this baby is born. And we discover about this mom that she has left her, I think they were married. I can't remember if they were married or if they went through the divorce or if they were just a long-term couple. But either way, both of her kids are with the same man, and he's just not been a good partner, a good support, and so she's finally left him. And he really is like trying to use the kids to jerk her around. He's trying to get her back, but he doesn't really care about their kids, but yet he's willing to use them to like fuck her over. Like, he's just a total jackass. And so again, this is a very young woman. She's going to nursing school. She is dealing with so much, and then to have this neighbor be a jerk to her in the beginning is just one more thing she doesn't need. But I love seeing how they end up and where it goes, and I think it's just a really beautiful relationship that comes from these two eventually. All right, then we have Play With Me by Becca Mack. So this one is neighbors in an apartment building. And this one we have, I don't even remember the heroine's name. Okay, we have Jenny and we have Garrett. And Garrett is a teammate with Jenny's brother, who's the hero from the first one. And they end up living in the same apartment. And so Garrett's friend and captain asks him to keep an eye out on his sister. And Garrett does not want to do this because he's super attracted to Jenny. And he's like, I can't have anything happen with her because this is my teammate's sister and it could just fuck everything up. But they just can't help it because she's snarky and bossy, and he just is so attracted to her. And so before long, they end up in kind of this secret relationship. But yes, they're neighbors and it's delightful. Okay, so after all of those, let us switch over to, actually I have 3 historical romances to pop in here. I know I don't have enough historicals that I put into these recommendations, but there is actually Because of Miss Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. So this was the first in the prequel spin-off series for Bridgerton. I believe I got that right. And we find out that the Rokespies, which that's what this series ended up being called. It used to be called a Bridgerton prequel, and then eventually the series was called the Rokespies. It was a whole thing. But this one is actually about the Bridgertons' like aunt, Billie Bridgerton. I think that's her name. I'm sorry. I don't have the book easily accessible. It's in the back of my closet is where all my Julia Quinns are right now. But the Bridgertons are neighbors with the Rokespies, and in this series, quite a few of these couples end up paired up. But I believe she ends up with the oldest brother, even though for a long time, like, he's the one she considered kind of like her enemy. But she ends up getting hurt, and he ends up finding her and bringing her to his family's home, and she ends up having to stay there while she convalesces before she can go back home. And she ends up getting close with him, and there's this little like flirty flirt that happens between the two of them before we move on with that. But yeah, this was really good. I did enjoy the first like 2 that were in this prequel series, and then like they were just okay. But yeah, this is a good series. If you loved the Bridgertons, you could try these out. By the time you read like the 4th one in this, you actually get to see like little Anthony and Benedict, I think, are in it, because you know, the Violet has eventually married her husband, and they've started having their kids, so it's really cute. Okay, then we have a book that I just love so much. We have Phoebe by Minerva Spencer. And this is the first book in the Bellamy Sisters series, which the last book, well, the last full book, there is going to be a Christmas novella, just came out, and I can't wait to read that one. But this one is about Phoebe, and she is a part of this family of 5 sisters, and the family only has 4 months before they're going to lose the roof over their head. And so they've actually ended up, they either rented out or sold the like main family home to Viscount Needham. And so he's a brand new peer. He basically has like been granted a viscountcy because of his money. Like, he works in, what is it? Is it like coal or factories or whatever? And her father, Phoebe's father, is determined to marry one of their children off to this guy so that they can kind of keep the family home like still within the family, and also he is rich. So her family doesn't think very well of this guy, but they want to marry one of their daughters off because what is your commodity? It's your children. So they are trying to like marry off one of their daughters to her, and Phoebe thinks this man is a scoundrel. She thinks that he is. And so she actually goes to like tell him off and is like, leave my sisters alone, like blah blah blah. And this Viscount, he a little bit wants to needle the upper class because he thinks they're all stuck up, and even though he's a part of it now, he knows that nobody respects him, and so he is planning to marry one of these daughters because he's like, I will gain respect one way or the other, and if it means marrying one of the daughters that they push at me, then I'll do it. And when Phoebe comes and chews him out, he likes her spunk. He likes her spark. And so he goes ahead and is like, I want you. You know what? I will leave your sister alone if you're the one who marries me. And so she agrees to do it. Now, there is some things interesting about him. Like, people aren't just prejudiced against him or suspicious of him because he's been like bought into, you know, the peerage. He also appears to have his mistress who lives with him and his bastard daughter. That is how things appear. That is all I'll say about it. But once Phoebe gets brought into this home, she becomes the mistress there. There is a lot that needs to be uncovered. But I really loved this. Please don't let these covers keep you away from it. I adore this series. I don't think it gets enough attention. Minerva Spencer, aka SM La Violette, has some of the most like bold and daring historicals that I've read in years, and she never gets the respect she deserves. And I'm just saying it. I'm just saying it. Highly recommend. And then the last one I wanted to share is just a sweet one that I love. I want to reread this one. We have A Daring Pursuit, which is a part of the Ruthless Rival series by Kate Bateman. I think this one is book 2. Yeah, I think this one is book 2 out of like, there's 3 and a novella in this series. But this one is about Karis Davies and Tristan Montgomery, and their families have been rivals for years, but in the first book, their siblings just married anyway. So now they are even like around each other even more. And there's always been, like I said, a rivalry between the two families when they were young. They say there's this like enemies between the family, but it becomes clear that like they were kind of hanging around each other, and it wasn't this complete all out hatred for each other. There was a lot of, you know, like there was some cuteness to go with it. It wasn't all just like evil and everything, or I mean meanness and everything. But in this case now, Tristan is back in the area and he's building his dream home, which isn't far from the Davies like home. And, you know, they're around each other more because now I think it's Tristan's sister is married to his brother. I think that's who got married previously. And so they're being brought to all these events that are being held because both of their families are connected now. And so there's also a secret about Karis. There's someone who has some blackmail over her. And when Tristan like overhears a certain situation, he thinks something bad about her. Granted, he catches her in kind of a like compromising position, but once she kind of explains it to him, she's like, I never want to get married. I don't want to deal with this or being controlled by a man. He's like, well, you know, you'd be missing out on some fun things that happen. And she's like, well, what? And he's like, well, how about during this house party that's happening, we sneak away and I'll teach you some of these things. So this one ends up being kind of like a sex lesson type thing, but also becomes clear that these two have really liked each other for a long time. And it isn't as simple as they've tried to make it seem with each other. So this was a really cute one. I loved it a lot. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoy some of these neighbor recommendations, and let me know down below some of your favorites. I know there are so many. I had to cut it off at some point and just give you some of these. So thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, give me some engagement. It all helps out the videos, and share it maybe with someone you think would like neighbor recommendations. That would help so much as well. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.